everybody, it is David and Jen here with David Christopher's, and we are inside of our retail store. As most of you know, if you've been watching our videos, a lot of our videos take place inside of our store, so it's not a very controlled environment. We could get phone calls, you could hear people working in the background, someone could come up at any time and interrupt us. We never know what's going to happen, but we have to make videos when we can, so we're here early this morning. David, tell us what you have in store, because I don't even know. I don't know what he has planned.
So today I'm looking at some transitional things. Basically, I want to take you from Christmas and not quite into spring, because I know a lot of you are not in Alabama. And in Alabama we have, I saw on the way driving in this morning, there were some Scotch broom stems that were coming out yellow, some forsythias. Kind of confused. We had 2 or 3 days of 60-degree weather, and it really messed with some of the flowers and the branches in the area. So we have things starting to come out, but I know for a lot of you that are a little further north and in some different areas of the country, you don't have things actually blooming at the moment. So we're going to do some transitional pieces that will really take you from the colorful things that you have for Christmas into what I consider our winter season, and before you get to spring, because some of you actually don't dig out of the snow until May.
It's a while.
We're not used to that.
Yes. So you'll see here, this is something you're going to be working with, and there's a wreath back here that we will get to, and this is the glue pan.
Yeah, this is my electric skillet of glue.
Yes, he uses an electric skillet with glue chips, melts them down.
Yeah, because we buy glue in like 50-pound boxes because we go through a lot of glue.
People always ask, tell them about your wire cutters.
These are some that I found in the design area because we left quite a few pairs in Atlanta, I think. So I have no idea what brand these are. They say made in China. Does that help? Anyway, these are inexpensive wire cutters that I don't have to cut a lot today, so I'm not going to look for the best wire cutters I have. I'm just going to cut a few stems and we'll move on. Okay, so what we want to do is we're going to take our gold manzanita branches out of our vase because we don't need those anymore. It's not Christmas. And to transition, I like to use a lot of branches, browns, greens, and creams in things because I don't want to go into yellows like forsythia, red tulips, pinks, lavenders, any of those kinds of things. So I'm just going to separate some of my birch branches out, and I'm going to stick those in there, and I'll take some of them out and kind of put them in at an angle because I want a lot of the branches to not just be straight up and down. I want them to have a little bit of flare out to the sides, but you want a few in the middle also. So we're just going to shape those out a little bit. They are natural, so they're not going to be a perfect bend. And then I'm going to take our tree magnolia branch, just because I like this color. So this has a lot of brown in the stem, which makes me think of something starting to bloom, starting to bud, and not fully opened yet, but something that's going to start opening soon. And that's going to give you just a little bit of color, but not be overwhelming, very drastic. And the birch branches are actually going to be a great support for our tree magnolia branch that we're using. So we're going to shape those out as we go and just kind of spin that around. And some of these you might want a little bit shorter. I'm not cutting all of these just for the sake of video time and everything, because we'll redo these several times in the store. Every few weeks we'll change this out. This is something easy that you can do at home. Now, if you were at your home, I would probably take the tags off, but because this is going to be something that we'll use in the store, we're going to leave the tags on because people will quite often want to buy things just the way they are in a vase that we have done this to in the store. And then we're going to add one more to this side. Fill in a little bit of a gap here. All right, and then we've got kind of a good shape going on. Might want to bend a few of the branches out a little bit more, depending on what kind of space you have, but we're going to put this kind of an open area, and we want a few of the branches to bend a little bit further down in areas. But everything pretty much reaching up toward the sun as something would normally grow. Okay. So now that we've got those, we're going to use some of these hanging dried. These look very, very dried, like a dried hanging amaranthus or a plume of some kind. And they actually feel a little bit dried. We're going to use a little bit of this because dried looking flowers, one, are very popular right now, and two, work very well for this transitional season where you don't need lots and lots of color, but you do need something to make everything not seem so dead. So we're going to use a few of these. And again, our birch branch that we put in originally gives you a really good structure to place some things without permanently affixing them with glue and styrofoam, things of that nature, and they will stay pretty much where you wanted them to go. And this really allows you, if you use something like the birch branches, to do something that you can change more frequently as opposed to if you have added styrofoam, moss, and all those kinds of things. So from there, you really don't need a lot extra. We just want to fill in a little bit of this base where you can see the stems coming out of the vase at this point. And you don't need much. You could use something that's green, like this boxwood. We could use something that's got this dried look to it. This magnolia would work great because it's got this brown and green and sage mixed colored leaf in this magnolia pick. And if you can see, it's got a little bit of like a dried finish to the leaf. So we're going to use a few of those to fill in our base. So I've only used really 4 products to create this. We had our natural birch branch bundle, which we used in the beginning. Then we added the tree magnolia, the dried look magnolia leaves, and this wild grass plume that looks dried. And that's really all there was, and those will be in a link in the description box.
While David's gathering up everything for the wreath that he's going to create, remember that you can shop all of our items at davidchristopher's.com. We sell wholesale and retail. So if you own your own business or you do design work for other people, check out our wholesale site. We can help you get set up with an account. If you're a retail customer, we now have a store locator on our website. So if you go to shop.davidchristopher's.com and click on store locator, you can put in your zip code and find retailers near you that carry our products. And the great thing about this is you can just look it up on your own, immediately find the results, and go shop local and support your local businesses. And if you can't find what you're looking for, ask those businesses if they would mind to order it from us so that you can get what you're needing for your special project.
We're going to use our grapevine. This is a 24-inch grapevine vase. First thing I like to do when I'm using a grapevine is decide if it's completely circular or if it's a little longer one way or the other. It looks a little longer this way to me and a little thicker at the base, so I'm going to turn it where the base is the thickest portion. And then I actually have some leftover vines from some honeysuckle vine that I've been using, and I'm going to add some of these into my wreath because I want it to be really wild and kind of crazy, overgrown, you know, just like everybody's shrubs while nobody's been maintaining them through the winter season. Letting some things overtake them. And I'm going to put some of this with a little bit of glue in my grapevine and just let them be a little bit wild. Okay, so now we're going to use a little piece of wire and attach this on the side. I'm going to use another piece of wire because this part's sticking out a little bit too three-dimensional for me. So I'm going to wire him down a little bit. Okay. So we're going to add a few more pieces of this vine. Some of them are a little thicker and harder to work with. Some are a little thinner and easier to work with, but they are natural. So if you do too much, you can break them or, you know, put a little too much of a bend in them. But that's okay. Most of the time they'll still stay where you placed them. Alright, so now we've got our vine pretty much where we want it, and I'm going to start adding some of our permanent botanicals in. And for this, I really want it to look kind of like a garden right before it starts to bloom, with just not a lot of color, but there's a lot of foliages. You still see some brown, so I'm going to use like this. This is their garden foliage. It's just kind of a little vine with some different color leaves on it. It's very wired, so it makes it a lot of fun to use on things like a grapevine, where I can glue it in and then kind of go around some of our vine that we've already added in and curl and keep going with some of those similar motions. So one thing that I like to tell people very often is I don't like to put things in your wreath straight, because no matter how good a designer you are, things usually should not be straight like that. Everything that you receive really needs to be curled, curved. Most everything has wire in it. You want to make sure you use that wire to the best of your ability so that it looks more natural and like it's actually growing, especially things that are vine shaped would have tendrils that are growing up and attaching to things and trying to reach for something to grab a hold of. So just keep that in mind when you're doing this, that you don't really want to leave anything completely straight right out of the box. I've kind of let my vines be a guide, my natural vine be a guide for my green vine. I've got some attached to some of my natural vines as if they're growing around it, because I want it to appear as if they're growing, they're attaching themselves to the vine, and they're going to slowly overtake it. So now I'm going to use this Rainforest Succulent branch that's got just a very muted color. It's mostly green, and I'm going to cut it into a second piece so that I just get a little bit in there. And I'm going to keep going in similar direction. So I'm trying to create focal points where my vine kind of clusters together. So that would be here, here, and here. So my arrangement is going to come like it's growing around the wreath. Now that we've got our Rainforest Succulent branch into our wreath, I'm going to cut up this plastic Thyme Bush just because I need a little bit more of a two-tone green color. I'm going to separate this out into some smaller pieces because I just want to get the background of green really going, and it hangs, this hangs really well, really naturally. So we're going to keep adding it in similar to our succulent branch in those areas where we're trying to create more of a green base, like it's really growing from particular areas. And we'll leave some of our grapevine open because it's natural grapevine. It's kind of pretty in itself. I need a little bit more green and brown, so I'm going to use the same Magnolia pick that's got this dried finish to it and blend it in. Now I need just a little bit more color, so I'm going to use some of this dried style Gypsophilia spray because it matches a lot of my vine there, and I think that will really bring out a little bit of lighter color. So I'm going to separate it out and cut it up so that I can mix it in sparingly. But it's also going to allow me to come out a little bit further from my wreath so that it's a little bit more three-dimensional. I'm actually using some of the wire that I tore out of my Gypsophilia stem, and I'm adding some brown wire to my vine orbs here, and I'm just going to make a couple of clusters. Now that I've got my vine balls in, I've just got a couple of spots where I'm going to fill in around where I put my vine balls, and we'll be done. Now all that's left to do is get all the excess glue away from your wreath, because when you use a glue pen you sometimes get some stringy bits here and there, but we clean those off and it'll be ready to go. We appreciate you watching. Hope you enjoyed it.